Preseason college football hype needs to be stopped. Welcome back to Good Sports for You, where we are talking about good sports for you. So if you've followed my channel at all, and if you haven't, that's fine. I've primarily made baseball videos. In fact, I've only made baseball videos, but it is called Good Sports for You, so I do want to talk about sports a little bit. I wanted to talk about something else today, but I just saw the AP rankings for the most recent polls, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and I wanted to talk about the preseason hype behind some teams and why some things are just completely undeserved and why some things are deserved. So I wanted to talk about three teams specifically. Colorado, obviously, they always have the preseason hype. UNC, with the addition of Bill Belichick as their head coach, and Alabama, the Crimson Tide, and what just happened against FSU and where they fell in the most recent rankings. So obviously, preseason rankings don't hold a lot of merit, in my opinion. You don't really know what's going to happen. You're basing it a lot off of last year, and that is not entirely fair, in my opinion, because you have a lot of teams that changed a lot. You have some teams that have added a lot of new people. You have some teams that got a lot of people taken away. You have some people that have transferred. You have some people that have graduated. And then beyond that, you still have a lot of players who just have sat back and chilled most of the season or most of their career. They were just career-long backups, and now they have the chance to finally start. Maybe like a junior who's been looking for his big break, and he can go off and have a fantastic season. I think a great example of that is someone like Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee a few years ago, where he still played and stuff like that beforehand, but then he was risen to this role where he was literally the best wide receiver in college football. He won the award for the best receiver in all of college football and led him to get drafted, but I digress. So my point is that preseason hype really shouldn't matter at all. But the fact is that people do still put a lot of stock into it when that really shouldn't happen, especially in the day and age that we live in with the college football playoffs being expanded and stuff like that. Yes, there are teams that are going to look good on paper right away, and they may not be good. Or there are teams that really struggled last year that suddenly, out of nowhere, they're really good. Or they are teams that are really good last year who just fall apart. And we see that year in and year out. And the most recent example of that, I think, is Alabama. So I want to start off talking about them. They dropped so much in the poll this week. They were originally number 8, and now they fell. Let me check. And now they dropped to 21. That's a huge drop in the rankings, and I think rightfully deserved. I mean, they lost to an FSU team. Again, you want to talk about preseason poll, FSU is no better example than anyone, I think, ever. They went from the highest of highs. They had an undefeated season where they were snubbed from the college football playoffs at SEC bias. You can go into that as much as you want. I'm an SEC guy. There is SEC bias. I'm not trying to say that there isn't, They went from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. They won 2 games last year, and they were a team that was ranked high in the preseason, and they absolutely fell apart, completely, to an extent that I don't think that's ever been seen, ever. And now they just beat Alabama. Alabama, who is in this mythos of, they're Alabama, they're never going to be defeated, they're this great team. They're not the same team that Nick Saban had. I'm going to say that right now. This is not the same team whatsoever. Take Saban is a different level, and it just has not showed at all. And so they lost to FSU, and the score wasn't a blowout. But watching the game, I never felt a time where I was like, oh man, Alabama's going to come back and win this thing. FSU had their number in the entire game. And now Alabama dropped significantly, which I think is really, really good. Honestly, if it was up to me, I wouldn't have them ranked at all. I don't think that they deserve to be ranked. But at the same time, it's okay, they're still a good team on paper. They're gonna turn it around a little bit. I don't think they're gonna turn it around to the extent to be a top 10 team pre-ranked and make the college football playoffs or anything like that. They very well could be out of it, honestly, altogether. I think one more loss and they're probably going to be done unless FSU has some miracle run. But whatever, I'm just stringing along. So Alabama, obviously, a lot of preseason hype that just has not paid off whatsoever. And then another team that you get the same amount, at least media hype, is Colorado. And Colorado, since Coach Sanders has been in charge of it, obviously has had a ton of preseason hype and a ton of season hype. Like, of course they're going to. Like, they're the media darlings. Everyone either loves them or they hates them, and regardless, at the end of the day, publicity is publicity, you know? But the fact of the matter is they lost some very good players. They lost Travis Hunter, who is the Heisman winner. You know, obviously he's a fantastic player on both sides of the ball. You lost Shedeur Sanders. I don't care what you think about him. At the end of the day, he was at least a quality starting quarterback for a Power 5 or a Power 4 team. Like, regardless of how you slice it, he was an all-conference player, and he deserves to be, like, you know, and you're still losing him. So you're losing these two huge pieces, but they still got a lot of hype. You know, I think they even received some votes in the AP poll in the preseason, and then they played Georgia Tech, and once again, like, the score didn't show the game, I felt. Like Colorado just looked sloppy. But of course, they're still going to get some attention because, you know, Coach Prime and everything like that. And it's like, I get that. And the last team that I want to talk about that honestly got the most undeserved media hype was UNC with Bill Belichick. Obviously, Bill Belichick's move to college was hugely publicized. I mean, obviously, you got to talk about it. He was the coach of arguably the greatest dynasty in football history, if not all of sports history. Well, the Yankees back in the day. One of the greatest dynasties in sports history with Tom Brady. Like, I mean, obviously it's going to be talked about a lot. And this game against TCU, I know that TCU talked about this. The head coach, after the game, he talked about that he felt that TCU wasn't getting any respect. Everyone was just talking about UNC this, UNC that. And the game was a travesty. It was an absolute joke of a game. Like, I tuned into the second half and I was, what in the world is happening right now? Like, the score tells a lot of the story, but beyond, and I know I've said this about all three games, but beyond the score, UNC looked dreadful. Like, just things like missed tackles, fumbles, like 3 and outs, just on everything. Like, everything that you imagine could go wrong with a football team went wrong for UNC. Like, maybe Bill Belichick isn't cut out to be the coach of college kids. You know, and that's a thing, and that's fine. But the media hyped it up so much, and so undeservingly so, for a game that they got absolutely decimated. And honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, when all things are said and done, like, TCU's a good team. They're not a world beater team. You should not be losing to another team that much when you're still a Power 4 conference. I mean, it's just unacceptable. You're still a big name school. You're UNC. I mean, obviously you're not basketball. But, like, you still should be putting up a fight, and they just didn't. And it was an absolute joke. So, like I said, I mean, the whole entire thing with preseason polls, it's just unfounded, basically the entire time. So I would not put any stock into anything. Or another example, Boise State. I mean, again, they were very, very low in the poll, but you lost Ashton Jeanty. Like, Ashton Jeanty was the whole entire team last year. And you just lost him. And they just got wrecked by South Florida in their first game. Like, just absolutely obliterated. And Boise State probably never should have been 25. But it almost felt like a respect vote. Like, oh, well, they made the playoffs last year, so we kind of got to put them in the rankings. And they fell to 25, which it's like, fine. Don't put any stock into the preseason polls. I wouldn't even put any stock into the first week's poll. I wouldn't start really paying attention until, like, honestly, like the 4th week poll, maybe, once you get some games under your belt. And then beyond that, just get ready for the college football playoff rankings themselves, because at the end of the day, those are the ones that matter. The AP poll doesn't decide and who makes the playoffs and who doesn't make the playoffs. So I thought that was interesting. And like I said, just don't put any stock into that. Media teams are always overhyped. This could be the downfall of Bama. Been praying for it, honestly. Shout out Tennessee, go Vols. Regardless, I wish all these teams best rest of the season. You know, obviously a lot of teams had bad starts. You know, on the other side of the ball, you know, these are great starts for some teams. Alabama is not the team that it once was. FSU is clearly not a team that is only going to win 2 games. They're clearly going to be better than that. So at least Bama can put some stock in that. Colorado is once again just a media darling who doesn't look to be that great. And UNC, for all the hype, looks absolutely dreadful. Something clearly needs to change over there. The defense was awful. The offense was awful. Everything about it was awful. And like I said, some other teams that got a lot of hype, like Boise State, they just didn't deserve to be ranked at all. Let me know if you enjoyed me talking about college ball. I want to talk more about college ball. I said on my page, like if you look, I want to talk about baseball, basketball, and I want to talk about college sports. College sports is obviously up and going, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So hopefully you enjoyed watching Good Sports for You. I enjoyed talking to you, and that's it for me, and I'm out.